wonder, secrets unfold. True crime stories, let the intrigue be told. Grab a seat, get cozy, let's dive into the plot. With Macjay by my side, there's so much to be sought. Mods from the stars, they light up the night. Chillin' with Van, everything feels just right. Welcome to the mystery, the history, the thrill we embrace. Solving cases together we'll trace. With Tabby and Maggie, the journey's begun. With laughter and stories, we'll shine like the sun. Spirit Time vibes with Lisa and Mark. Tia and Mel igniting the spark. According to Lean, curiosity flows. A curious rose in a garden of woes. Sweet misery whispers, tales that enthrall. While Matt, Meg and Jody, we gather them all. Welcome to the mystery, the history, the thrill we embrace. Solving cases together we'll trace. With Tabby and Maggie, the journey's begun. With laughter and stories, we'll shine like the sun. So come along, join the fun tonight. In Aussie true crime, everything feels so right.
Hey, beautiful people.
Hi, everyone.
Just realized I didn't even have my microphone. I'm not half asleep. I am here. So it's been a long day. I've had my first day of placement, but I was just telling Macjay about it, but it's over. I'm here. I haven't got much more than our podcast tonight, but I didn't want to miss it because this case is important and getting William's name out there once a week is important to us.
Yes.
So you can hear my big German Shepherd out there going off, which is interesting too. Beautiful Jessie, hello. I seen your thing. I did give out 5 more memberships, so they're our free ones. And Jessie got one. Miss Chewy got one. Juicer, Lizzo, and DTR True Love. So I will put out the Discord membership. We're so bad with that, but I will put it out again for the members. Actually, I'm just going to put it out for anyone. If the only thing we really put in there a lot is our lives, so do you know what I mean? I'll just put the link out on my community post for anyone that wants to join it. But yeah, so we're up to number 6 tonight. And it says that they're going back to the beginning of the police investigation. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it on the right one. And it's 51 minutes tonight.
Police emergency, this is Simone.
Yeah, hi, my son is missing. He's 3.5.
Okay.
So how did we get here?
How long has he been missing?
Well, we've been looking for him now for about 15 or 20 minutes, but
Okay.
I thought it could be 5, it could be longer, because he was just playing around till we heard him, and then we heard nothing.
Okay. So what the nearest prostate?
Last week, an inquest into William Tyrrell's disappearance heard the police have no forensic evidence, no witness evidence, no direct evidence at all about what happened to him. Despite the police previously saying on the front page of a newspaper they had a new suspect they believed was responsible for William's death and disappearance. Despite detectives going to this suspect's house and telling her, "You'll have to live with it. We aren't guessing. We know why. We know how. We know where William is." And despite police saying in court, on oath, their theory is that William's foster mother disposed of his body, we now know they have no evidence she did this. And the coroner overseeing the inquest has refused to even call the lead detective, David Laidlaw, as a witness. So you have to wonder, where did all of these accusations start?
Yeah.
A-R-O-O.
Yeah, I can see where you are. It's been around.
Make you stop and think that they're not. So even there, they said they're not calling the officers that were there at the start. Now think about Amy's case as well. The 3 officers that were there at the start aren't getting listened to.
No, they're really not.
Like they're our first responders. They're there to get, do you know what I mean, firsthand, see all of this, get all the statements, and then when it comes to things like our inquests and, do you know what I mean, things further up, they're just not getting, and it's disgusting.
It is.
Like,
Just to get the information, William was a foster child, man. I had to go to court over that.
Because Alana brought that out. Alana
Yeah.
Smith, she fought for I think it was 3 years to get that brought out. And that was the thing, and that's what people have got to understand. I know a lot of people watch on replay from America, and that's what people have to understand. For 3 years when this case first started, we all knew William was missing, and, do you know what I mean, people were looking for William, but everyone knew that there was something that we weren't being told. And it was the fact that William was a foster child. It was held back for 3 years. Jimmy, I don't know why it was held back, but it was, and it definitely cast a major shadow over this case from the start.
It did.
And turned a lot of people off it. I mean, there would have been a lot more eyes on William if... Anyway. But yeah, I just found that funny, because that's something we're listening to in Amy's case, and then it comes up in this one.
Yeah, it really makes you think that what would if the foster mother had what do they call it, connections?
Because you also got to think those officers see firsthand everything, whereas the ones that are now taking it over are only reading it from a note or reading it from a police file. They're not actually seeing it. They're not seeing, do you know what I mean, how the foster parents were reacting. They're not seeing, do you mean how neighbours were reacting. They're the first officers that see all that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
It's just sad. Sad they're not getting listened to.
Oh.
And then they wonder why they don't have answers to this case.
Yep.
Marine Drive in Kendall, and I've got your nearest cross street as being Ellendale Crescent.
It could be, I don't know.
Okay. So he's been missing since about 10:30?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I listened to the foster mother's phone call, and something clicked for me.
This woman doesn't want to be identified.
Okay, can you describe him to me? How tall?
He'd be about 2.5 feet. He's wearing a Spider-Man outfit.
I'm listening to this 000 call, and I've had something similar happen to me.
She's one of the many thousands, if not millions, who've listened to the 000 recording of William's foster mother reporting him missing since it was made public.
My first child had a horrible accident at home when she was about 9 or 10 months of age, and she sort of pushed on a screen window, and it mustn't have been secured properly, or it wasn't safe enough. She went all the way out and I couldn't catch her.
Like thousands of other people, this woman has gone online, written about the case, sharing her opinions.
But I remember running down the stairs and just screaming, and I was hysterical, finding her, on the grass crying. And I just remember grabbing her and coming back upstairs to where my phone was and calling emergency services. And I was absolutely hysterical, screaming and begging for someone to help me, for the ambulance to please come, and just screaming for help the whole time.
Yep. What colour hair has he got?
He's got dark sandy coloured hair, it's short, and he's got really big browny green coloured eyes.
Thinking back to the foster mother's 000 call, she was calm. She just wasn't fazed. She was able to answer questions, and she was just cool as a cucumber.
And just like the police, she's become suspicious, despite having no real evidence.
Okay. I see you got any shoes on. Do you know any other distinguishing features?
He's got a freckle on the top of his head when you part the hair on the left-hand side.
Yep.
You'll see a freckle on the top of his head.
Okay. All right.
Did he have any identifying features? Oh, well, he had a freckle, and, was he wearing shoes? Yeah. You don't do that when you're in a crisis because you don't have that presence of mind.
So is it fair to say that you started to suspect the foster mum because in that 000 call, her grief wasn't the same as your grief?
Yeah.
Today, 10 years on from that phone call reporting William missing, that's really all we do have. Suspicion. People pointing fingers, but no evidence. And you have to ask, why is that? Why, after 10 years...
Hi, beautiful Miss Sharon and Judy.
Hi.
I had a scene they both snuck in.
Yes.
We're listening to part 6 of the William Terrell thing. So they're going back to the beginning.
of the most high-profile police investigation in the country, is there still no direct evidence of what happened to William? How was that allowed to happen? And is the person who's really...
Well, the funny thing was at the start it was that he didn't have his shoes on. Because that was one of the arguments. I've got a photo where they've circled the shoes.
Interesting.
I'll find that photo. I'll write it down. I'll find that photo.
responsible for William's disappearance still walking around today? To find those answers, we're going back to the moment of this 000 call and the police investigation that followed. We're going to look at what was done, what was not done, what was missed, and how that planted suspicions, which grew, forcing their way into every part of the investigation, leading it in crazy, twisted, damaging directions, threatening to strangle it completely.
Then I thought, oh, I haven't heard him, I better go check on him and
All right.
find him.
We'll send police to see you at Venaroo Drive in Kendall. We'll also get the message broadcasted to all the cars and people look out for him as well,
Yes,
okay?
Thanks
All
very
right.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm Dan Boggs, and this is Witness, William Tyrrell, Episode 6, Missing Evidence. The morning of William's disappearance, the 12th of September 2014, starts off quiet. He's the first to wake up, then his foster father, his sister, and his foster mother, who would later remember seeing 2 cars parked on the road outside the house, one white, one grey, despite saying in that 000 call she didn't see anything suspicious.
Hi, beautiful kitty witty. I know that Facebook has been making some changes because there is a change now with the chat settings. So I don't know if you unsubscribe and resubscribe, because I've heard that helps some people.
Yeah, it
I
can
know
also depend.
Hey,
Oh, no. You go.
I know I set it up late, so I don't know if that stopped the notifications. But
No, I know that sometimes it's the device. That's what I heard anyway.
yeah,
Hard to tell, eh? With that.
it is. But yeah. So I even know in the chats I've now got to hit, like, there's a little, like a setting buttons up the top, and if you hit that it comes up and you actually have to stop the filtered chat and hit all chat or something.
Really?
Now, yeah, otherwise you're missing half the chat.
Damn.
So if you hit there's like I've got a little scissors, and then it's like a little setting thing, or like a spanner, like a little screw.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm too tired. And then you've got the X to get out of the chat. So it's just next to the X. And if you hit it, there's a chat filter, and you can hit that, and then it comes up top chat, all messages, or fan or something. What is it? Top messages, or fan funding. And yeah, I've got to hit it in every chat I go in now.
Damn. Bloody YouTube.
My beautiful grandmammy. Sharon, I miss Mondays, forgot and went to bed. You'll have to catch up. Mondays was good. We listened to Amy's kids and her mum. Her mum's amazing.
I just how she just, I don't know how she did it, like holding back, like from.
It's definitely worth the rewatch.
Yes.
But yeah.
At the time.
There wasn't anyone suspicious in the area, any vehicles?
No.
Later in the morning, when the kids have got up, had breakfast, and are playing with their bikes outside the house, William's foster mother remembers seeing a 3rd car, a grey or green sedan, turn into the driveway of the next door house, reverse out, and drive back down the road. She says the driver's in his 50s, maybe 60s, and it's odd, she thinks. Benaroon Drive, where the family are staying for the weekend, is a dead-end road outside a small town called Kendal, surrounded by forest and empty farmland. You just don't get that many cars, particularly ones where you don't recognize the driver. Later, another witness will also describe seeing a white car that morning, a Holden, being driven by a man on nearby roads. But that only comes to light years later, during the police investigation that will follow after William disappears. At some point that morning, the 12th of September, a man called Tony Jones leaves his house in Warhope, which is about a 20-minute drive from where William would go missing. Tony tells his wife Debbie he's going scrapping, looking for scrap metal in the state forest, and that their son is going with him. Only Tony's son will later say that he wasn't with his father. When Tony's asked about this at the inquest into William's disappearance, he says, quote, "I have no recollections, none whatsoever. And I'll be honest, if I wasn't scrapping, I was probably sleeping with Debbie's friend next door. Another witness will also come forward saying that they see Tony sitting in a white Toyota, although he denies this when the police ask questions. Because weeks after William is reported missing, Tony Jones will be jailed of unrelated child sex offences, although there's no evidence today he was involved in William's disappearance.
Why run away from the cameras, Mr. Jones?
Go away, mate.
Why did you run away from the camera?
Why did you have to go on camera? Why did you have to go on camera?
Were you in Kendal that day, William?
No, I was not. Now go away.
Mr. Jones, can you explain your car?
Look, I answered your questions, mate. Go away!
Whoa.
Around 9 a.m. on the morning William is reported missing, his foster mother wants to do some washing and realises the machine is broken. They're staying at her mum's house for the weekend.
You got to understand too, around Kendal and back in that time, there was a lot of drug takers in the town. So a lot of people wouldn't have liked being asked questions. Not saying that they had done something with William, but those kind of people don't like questions. Yeah, that was very big. He did sound charming, didn't he? But it's worse. Wait till they get hold of Bill Spenning. They ruined his life.
Oh dear.
A local repairman's been asked to fix it. By chance, Tony Jones and that local white goods repairman used to be neighbours years ago in another town.
Ozzy,
Yeah.
our little Miss Sharon asks who said go away. I missed
It was a person. So there was two cars. I think I've got a picture of the cars. Hang on. There was two cars that the foster mother saw that morning, and now she's saying that she saw a third. No, hang on, that's the wrong picture. Sorry. These two cars are the two cars that the foster mother said she saw that morning. Now she was saying that she saw a third. So the person that just yelled "go away" was the person that owned what they thought was the third car. His wife said that he had gone out that morning, as they said, and you know what I mean? But that's what I'm just trying to say. Like, I'm not saying that they're innocent or guilty of whatever, but there was a lot of people in that area that used, do you know what I mean? I lived there. I know the colour of the people that were around, and it wasn't a town that you ask questions if.
Yeah.
So, hey, Matt, welcome in. But now they're going to go into Bill Spenning. Now, he actually became one of their main suspects in this case, and he was the reason that Gary Drublin got kicked off the police force when he recorded that conversation. It was a conversation that he had with Bill Spenning. And Bill Spenning ended up suing them for
$1
I think
million?
2.5 million. Yeah, it was an incredible big amount. But he did, in saying that, he lost his business, his wife, his family, his house, like literally everything. And I don't think any money price would bring all that back.
No, it wouldn't.
But yeah, that's who they're about to start talking about.
A long way from where William goes missing. His foster mum calls the repairman, but he doesn't answer. She leaves a message asking him to come and fix the washing machine. Another local tradesman, Jeff Owen, calls the home soon after to talk about some work that needs doing on the deck. Jeff is good mates with a man named Frank Abbott. Frank has previously been found not guilty of murder. A year after William's disappearance, Frank moves into a caravan on Jeff's property, and at that time, he's on bail for child sex abuse charges. And by chance, Frank Abbott is also connected to Tony Jones. Frank's son-in-law is Tony's neighbour, and I promise you, we'll get into all of that later in this series. But for now, we're getting closer to the moment on the 12th of September 2014 when William is reported missing. After which, different people will look again at those phone calls with different tradesmen and the cars seen that morning and start asking if they might be important, particularly after another local, a man called Ron Chapman, will tell police he saw a car driving fast through Kendal just a few minutes before William's foster mum makes her 000 call.
At the time, I didn't know what make it was, but I believe it to be now throughout a Land Cruiser, an old model, a box type vehicle of Asian colour.
Yep. All right, then you and I might just take a walk.
Ron says the car was screaming round the corner, driven by a woman in her late 20s or 30s, and he says she's plump, not very tall, with blonde hair tied in a bun on top of her head. Ron says he sees a boy in the back seat of the car, standing up with his hands on the window. The boy's about 3 or maybe 4, with light blondie browny hair, wearing a red and blue outfit, like the Spider-Man suit William is wearing this morning. Ron tells police he sees another car coming after.
Okay, Ron. Now, you talked about a second vehicle.
Yes.
You did.
This time, a blue Ford sedan, really, really accelerating.
How long was it between the first vehicle and the second vehicle?
It would have only been a couple of seconds, I should imagine, because I could see it was a man in the vehicle.
Okay.
I didn't get a clear enough look to be able to tell you what coloured hair he had or what he even looked like.
Okay.
You'd think the police would want to follow up on Ron's sighting. 2 cars, driving fast, away from Benaroon Drive, one driven by a man, the other by a woman, with a boy standing up on the back seat, matching William's description, even down to the red and blue suit William is wearing. But Ron's evidence, it kind of goes missing for a few years, partly because Ron himself doesn't go to the police, at least at first. Instead, when Ron sees the news reports about William going missing, he waits for the police to knock on his door, but they don't do that. Ron's sister tells him he should contact the cops, but Ron doesn't do it directly. Instead, he gets in touch with another local woman, saying he wants to speak to her sister-in-law, who is the local cop. So a detective doesn't speak to Ron until March 2015, 6 months after William goes missing. And the police don't interview Ron until the August, another 5 months later. They don't record this until April 2017.
The time is now 4:27 p.m. and the reenactment at the premises of Mr. Ron Chapman is now complete.
At one point in his conversations with police, Ron says he got such a shock when he saw the news reports about William going missing that he wondered for a moment if he'd dreamt seeing the cars. When asked directly about this, he says, "I didn't dream it, no." And when I speak to him for this podcast, he says the same thing. Ron's in his mid-80s now, but sounded clear and confident when I speak to him. He doesn't want to do an interview, he tells me, but he does tell me, "I know what I saw." That's the thing with police investigations. You don't know what you don't know until you realise that the thing you're missing turns out to be important. And all of this evidence about cars and people whose movements can't be accounted for or had reason to contact the house where William was staying, it might have meant something if police had known about it at the time, but they didn't. Some of it isn't found out until years later, which is a problem if you're trying to find out what's happened to a missing child. Back at the house where William goes missing, his foster mother calls 000 at 10:56 that morning, and the first police officer arrives in about 10 minutes, which is impressively fast. He goes through the house, opening cupboards, looking under beds, though he doesn't go into the roof space or open the door to the garage. Soon after, another uniformed cop arrives and stays in the house, while the first starts searching outside it. Looking in yards, the nearby forest, talking to neighbours, he thinks they need to check the drains as a priority in case William has somehow fallen into one. And William's foster mum asks at least 3 times if she should call the government department overseeing his foster care to let them know what's happened. The police say no, not yet. Let's see if we can find him. More cops arrive within minutes, including an inspector who establishes a command post, starts keeping written logs of what's happening. He requests the state emergency service search all the water drains and that the police send a specially qualified search coordinator and a helicopter and the rescue squad, the trail bike unit, the mounted unit, and the police media unit send out an alert, after which everything changes.
What the?
I thought we'd find him. I honestly thought we'd.
They got to think too. All them people that they sent out for came, plus hundreds and hundreds of locals that just started trampling that backyard and all around that area, that any evidence that would have been there would have been lost.
Yes.
Like there was no, it wasn't cordoned off. There wasn't, do you know what I mean? The police didn't go through the area first. It was just everyone. Like, I know intentions are good, and I'm not saying they weren't, but police should have done a little bit more to protect what evidence could have been there.
They should have, yeah.
Because they didn't. And that was the first mistake they made.
One of many.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because
Find him.
Okay.
I said, I hope it wasn't because they wanted to go on vacation.
No, none of these officers had vacation.
Thought he would have been found really quickly.
News of William's disappearance spreads fast,
I just heard from someone at school.
bringing in people,
There was, massive social media posts about everyone.
volunteers in their hundreds.
So then I went home and got my torch and dressed up and left my kids at home and went looking for him.
The police bring in divers.
My daughter, who was about 12 at the time, she said to me, Mum, I want to come.
All these people descend on the dead-end road where William was reported missing.
And I was like, okay, well, let's go.
People start searching. Backyards, dams, the waterways.
There were hundreds of cars there. There were hundreds of people. There seemed to be people going in different directions in different places with different groups.
And to be honest, it was bedlam.
People had come with motorbikes. People had come with all their own equipment.
People camped down there.
I recognised quite a few locals, but there's lots of people there that I didn't recognise.
Everyone got told to just go for a walk, go look for him.
People had come from a lot of different places.
There was just people wandering around, walking through scrub.
This is one of many line searches underway.
Afternoon turned into evening. That first night, the searchers keep on looking by torchlight.
Volunteers are exhausted after putting in such long days.
Day after day, the search continues.
The SES, the surf clubs, the fire brigade.
The lifeguards, the fireys.
All resources and means available are being used on the ground and in the air.
William's foster father is among them, up at dawn the next morning and out walking through the bush.
We did have the foster father come down, and he kind of just sort of started sobbing. And I said, "Oh, it's all right, it's all right." And he goes, No, I just want to thank you. And I said, "Oh, don't thank us. We're just here looking for the little boy."
Until the days start to fall into a pattern.
Sometimes it was hopeful, and then some afternoons you could see the exhaustion.
But no one stops.
Up to 50 people are working shoulder to shoulder to check every square metre close to the home.
It was just total chaos.
Over the next fortnight, police records say the search will cover about 18 square kilometres, which I think is about 2,500 football pitches. A police press release says it's 50 square kilometres, so around 7,000 football pitches, which is incredibly impressive. Except they missed things.
I witnessed a great deal of confusion from both the police and the SES.
This man is visiting a relative in Benaroon Drive the same morning William is reported missing. He says the police and SES are doing a great job, no doubt, but there are no cordons put in place on the road to stop cars.
No cordoning off of the street at all. Cars were driving up and down the street.
Meaning anyone can come or go in a vehicle without being checked.
There should have been police at the intersection, and any vehicle to go up there should have been stopped and questioned. That would be a priority as far as I'm concerned.
And that wasn't happening from what you saw?
No, not at all, not for some time. And I don't even think until the following day it took place that way, because there were still vehicles driving up and down for a bit of a show.
He also says some things just don't get searched.
The SES would go walk into a home or driveway, and both them and the police on the various occasions through that day did the same thing. However, I will mention the fact that there was a caravan, and that caravan was bypassed by both the police and the SES each time they came into the premises.
So it was never searched?
It was never searched, never asked to be looked at, and never searched.
The police do a forensic search of the house where William was reported missing, but not until the next day, by which time his foster family have stayed in it overnight. A neighbour's house directly across the road is not searched until 3 days later. The man living there, Paul Savage, is one of only 3 adults known to hear William and his sister playing at the house that morning. Paul is home alone just before William is reported missing, but the police find no evidence he was involved. In fact, far from finding anything, some of the neighbours living on this road say they have things stolen from their cars and their properties during the search, and some of them are still angry 10 years later.
The street was full of cars from one end to the other, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands of people calling around our homes.
And did it look like it was organised?
Far from organised. A bunch of pissed idiots rambling around the street.
And what were they doing?
Walking around, yelling out, "William, William," and just having a general check out of everyone's homes and property.
And was there any attempt that you could see by the police to stop them going to certain areas?
No, not in the least.
And what did you think when you saw that?
I thought, this is a fucking debacle. This is just wrong.
One thing everyone can agree on is the forest on either side of Benaroon Drive is too thick for a little boy to wander off in.
What's it like trying to search through that bush at the time?
Oh, horrendous. because you got Lantana. Lantana. You ever seen Lantana?
No. Would you show me?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you here. It's Lantana.
What, this sort of the thin, like a thin tree?
Yeah, that's Lantana.
So what's the problem with lantana when you're trying to search?
You can get shredded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the stem itself. It's got fine points on it.
Yeah.
Pins on it.
Yeah.
If you get entangled in it, you can end up with cuts and...
Yeah, okay.
You can get shredded. I don't know who invented it, but it's lousy.
And you're saying that we couldn't get through it with... I've got boots and you've got...
No, I'll have to get my work boots on or my RFS boots to walk in there. I'm still not geared up for it.
I don't think a 3-year-old boy would have got through the bush then.
No. He would have panicked, I'd say. He'd be crying, of course, screaming. Yeah. But it is thick everywhere, Randy.
The vast, weeks-long police search finds nothing. Worse than that, the search itself potentially destroys forensic evidence.
Driving up, it was, I guess you kind of went, wow, look at all these people that are out looking, isn't that fantastic? But then upon reflection, you go, well, that's destroying any, possibly destroying any evidence that might be around if something nefarious has happened.
This woman also visits Benaroon Drive during the early days of the police search.
So there were people all up and down Benaroon Drive. Like, I was amazed at how many people. And then when I got up to the house, just the amount of people, I couldn't believe it. That people all over the front lawn. There were people on horseback riding around on the bottom of the front lawn. So, even in that area where they say William might have run down to the lawn and met someone on the road or ended up on the road, like there were, I don't know how they'd be able to find anything.
And when you say you don't think they would be able to find anything, you're talking about?
How can you find something when you've got horses trampling over a front lawn and people walking all up and down the front lawn and on the curbside and out the front of the house? And and it's not to criticize the police, because I guess at that time they felt they were looking for a missing boy, but there was zero control over the site that he went missing.
This, then, is the first tragic mistake in the police investigation. Police records say, at the time of this initial search, there is no crime scene.
This is where I think, and this is just in my opinion, and not just for Australian cases, I think all cases of missing children. As soon as it's a child that's missing, they should have, whether it's a different officer or not, that comes in and protects the scene just in case. Because look at all these missing children that end up not being so innocently missing, and then cases are ruined. Do you know what I mean? Like Sebastian's. Look at Sebastian's case.
Oh, that's the American version of this.
I know, but you think about it. There was nothing protected. There was nothing. The scene, the house, nothing went through because they just put it as a missing case. Do you know what I mean? Summer Wells. The list goes on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be just an Australian thing. It needs to be a worldwide thing, that when it's a child that's missing, for somebody to have the brains to start, you don't even have to tell the family. Just start protecting all the evidence just in case the case turns another way.
Yeah, exactly.
You think so, Kitty?
You just...
The Watts case where Nicole Atkinson and her son and daughter traipsing everywhere. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I mean. They don't protect these And it's the first thing you see when you watch crime shows. Do you know what I mean? To cordon off the area, and they don't do it.
Yeah,
It
you
just
think it'd
makes
be
me-
like, oh,
Yeah. No, go. It just makes me so cranky, but go.
oh yeah, you think it'd be like one of the first basic things you do right off the bat.
Mm. And that's what I mean. And like, I'm not saying every missing case, because I know we have a lot, but in children, they should. Children should just automatically qualify for this.
Well, yeah, they should by default.
Mm.
Established. The search was not conducted with the view that there may have been deliberate human intervention, nor was it done with the view of recovering forensic evidence. The focus was on finding William. But once the search had failed to find William, without forensic evidence, the police are playing catch-up, not knowing what it is that they are missing, which is tragic because the opportunity was there to collect that evidence. Less than 4 hours after William's foster mother makes that 000 call, detectives arrive, whose job it is to investigate what happened. And like the searchers, they try their hearts out. The sheer scale of the investigation that will follow is stunning. William's birth and foster families are spoken to. Who knew what? Where were they? Those accounts are tested, evidence gathered. And at the same time, the police are spreading out. In the coming days and weeks and years, the police will speak to everyone who lives on Benaroon Drive, some more than once. In nearby Kendal, they will knock on doors, post appeals for information through letterboxes, and ultimately interview over 260 different people. The police will also canvass hotels, motels, and caravan parks within a 10-kilometre radius. A week after William is reported missing, they will stop every vehicle travelling along the road that leads to Benaroon Drive, recording details of the driver and passengers. The police will obtain CCTV from 12 local businesses, as well as 169 CCTV cameras from outside Kendal. They'll examine data from people's phones, from traffic cameras and mobile cell towers. They will receive thousands, literally thousands, of reports from people who will say they have seen William from right across the country. At one point, William's foster parents will be shown a photo of a man and a boy seen on a train, and oh my gosh, it looks like William. The police will track that man down, only to find the boy is his son. The police will also be inundated with information from people claiming to be clairvoyants who can speak to the dead, or saying information has come to them through dreams or visions, and it's easy to imagine even the most organised police force drowning in paperwork. And even with this huge flood of information, there are still things that are missing. There's no CCTV camera that records the cars going in or out of Benaroon Drive. And it's not until the day after William disappears that police check the CCTV from the Kendal Tennis Club, which films cars going in and out of Kendal. But that camera only shows vehicles from the side, not their registration plates, making it difficult to identify them. And while it covers the main road in and out of Kendal, there are several other roads where the cars aren't recorded.
Interesting.
Very early on in the investigation, the local detectives start speaking to their counterparts in the specialised sex crime squad and homicide.
There's also lots of back ways to get into Kendal because it's all bush around the area.
Yeah, true. But then if you think about it, if you wanted to hide a body, right, you would have to know the area, like to get all around the roadblocks if you didn't have a lot of time.
That's easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember my dad was a bikie, so And we lived there, so he knew the area pretty well. And yeah, I watched him come in so many ways it wasn't funny.
Well, they must have known where the cameras were and were not. Because, like, if those cars were there, then...
And it's one of those country towns that has, like, about 2 streets. And if you don't see those streets in blink, you're going to miss the whole town.
Oh, yep. I know those.
Like, a lot of Aussies will know those kind of towns because we have quite a few of them. But it's the kind of town it is. Like, if you didn't have a reason to go into Kendall, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't know where to go.
Yeah. Like, as you go down, and this is the old highway, as I explained, they've made all that new highway now. But before, the highway, like, goes across, and Kendall was just a little road off to the side. So if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't even... I mean, I think going through, there was a couple of houses and you had the servo and then a sign that had Q one way and Kendall the other. And that was it.
Jeez. Yeah, there's a lot of towns. Because, like, especially the further you go out from, like, the capital cities, the more spread out they are and the more smaller, like, say, Rockhampton, between Rockhampton and Cairns, you know, like...
I think it's about 40 or 50 kilometres. I think it used to take us about 40 minutes to get to Taree, if that helps where it is.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So.
Squad, both based in Sydney. Sex crimes detectives visit Kendall within days of William's disappearance. If their involvement so early on surprises you, that's a reflection of the fact that it is a really dark world sometimes, and the police have often seen firsthand what lives in those darker shadows. During their investigation, the police will identify people listed on the Child Protection Register on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, meaning those people who have been sentenced for child sex offences or the kidnap, manslaughter or murder of a child. The cops will concentrate their inquiries on those living within a 30-kilometre radius of where William was reported missing, identifying dozens and speaking to them all. Police...
This is not to do with just William's case, but did you see that the other day they brought out in Queensland, they're making a registry now that's going to be public with all the sex offenders in the area?
Oh, boy.
I know America has it already, but this is something really big in Australia, and it got passed the other day. It was Daniel Morecambe's family that have been pushing for this.
They're such lovely people. I've met them.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it and I'll put it in our Facebook page. But yeah, it's huge. Just thought I'd add that in while they were talking about.
I will see if they're out in country towns, like some of the ones I know out here, like they'll just disappear. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yep. Well, my ex-husband, and this is the reason he's my ex, do you know what I mean? Because he interfered with one of my children. Reason he's my ex, but he works and owns a family restaurant in Surfers.
Ugh, yuck. You know what? I think I might know the one. If there's yeah.
And this list is gonna this list goes my monetization is gonna mess him up because he'll come up on it.
Good.
So, I can stop telling people what a piece of shit he is. But yeah, I'll try and find the thing and I'll put it in the Facebook page for everyone. Because it was interesting.
This records show there was nothing to suggest any of those people on the Child Protection Register had any knowledge or involvement in William's disappearance. But detectives keep a record of their names on what becomes known as the Persons of Interest list. It's basically a list of people who require investigation to rule them in or out. Almost everyone, or maybe everyone on the list, will turn out to have nothing to do with William's disappearance, but the police still have to work through the names to be certain. Once someone's identified as a person of interest, the police look for any information about them on the COP's central computer system, like details of criminal history, intelligence reports, whether they're on the Child Protection Register, and any known personal details. That's all written up in an information report and put on another police database called Eagle Eye. It's also put into the investigation's intelligence collection plan, and background checks on all of these people are carried out. For some, detectives will seek out law enforcement records from other states across Australia, telecommunication records, financial records, which are all analysed to see if the person of interest has any links to William Tyrrell, his family, or the place where William was reported missing. In time, a forensic psychologist will be brought in to consult with the detectives, the police looking at whether each of their persons of interest has the motive, opportunity, and capability to do something to William. They then divide the list of people up into low, medium, and high risk, with all the high-risk persons of interest targeted for further investigation, and individual briefs of evidence about them compiled, explaining why they came under suspicion, what investigations have been carried out, and any evidence both for and against them, all of which will later be sent to a coroner overseeing an inquest into what happened to William. What I'm saying is, it's a lot of work, a lot to manage. In time, the police will have over 1,000 persons of interest. 4 days after William's reported missing, the police announce a dedicated strike force will investigate what happened to him. It's made up of 3 officers from the homicide squad, 1 from the unsolved homicide team, 2 from sex crimes, 1 from the robbery squad, and 2 from the local police command. But there is some confusion, at least for me, looking in from the outside as a reporter covering William's disappearance at the time, over who's in charge.
Sorry, Inspector, I didn't get your full name before.
Superintendent Fionn.
How do I spell Fionn?
F-E-H-O-N.
Terrific, thank you.
This is the local area commander, Superintendent Paul Fionn, speaking at a press conference a year after William's reported missing.
Look, the investigation has continued, and as has been said many times, there is a wealth of information and intelligence that has come through, and it has to be followed up. And at this point in time, we are no closer to saying where William is.
Which is not the message the homicide squad want people to be given. They're put in charge of the investigation 6 days after William's reported missing, according to police records, and they don't want people going around saying they're no closer to solving the case. But Paul Fionn, the local police commander, he keeps appearing in the media.
You would always like to have an early result of any matter. We just have to be committed to it, and the strike force is very committed to following up every single piece of information.
The strike force is committed. They set up a dedicated room in a local police station. But as a reporter covering the investigation, I hear odd things, like how they get told to move out of the room when the local cops want to have a meeting.
It's about trying to locate what happened to a young child who was playing with his sister, grandmother and mother in what you would think is a most safe environment.
That confusion is compounded by the fact police are actually misleading the public. Listen again to what Paul Fionn says about William's family.
A young child who was playing with his sister, grandmother and mother.
William wasn't with his grandmother and mother. He was with his foster grandmother and foster mother. In those first few days and weeks following his disappearance, we reporters aren't allowed to say William is a foster child. The state government department responsible for William's care tell us that the law actually prevents us from doing so. It puts out written warnings to the media talking about legal action and penalties of up to 2 years in prison. Years later, this official silence will be challenged in court, and a judge will say the department's use of the law is misconceived. But at the time, no one talks in public about William being a foster child, and instead, everyone calls William's foster parents simply his parents, meaning William's biological family do not get a mention in anything that's said in public. And even then, the state government insist that the same laws mean William's foster parents cannot be pictured or named or speak in public, meaning they do not get to make a public appeal for information. You know, the kind of thing you see in news reports and TV shows about tragic cases where the grieving families say,
And haven't they used that to their advantage?
Oh, they definitely have.
And they can't say it's to protect the child because, do you know what I mean, everyone knows who William is. And they've had William's sister removed, so what child are they protecting?
Exactly.
Hey, please, if you know anything, come forward. But the thing about those public appeals is they work. People do come forward sometimes, but that is not allowed to happen in William's case. So we will never know if it might have made a difference. And just like with the failure to establish a crime scene right at the beginning to protect any possible forensic evidence, with police work, you don't know what you don't know until you realize it might have been important. But I do know detectives who look at this case say this is a wasted chance that might have made a difference. And of course, the secrecy also doesn't work. William's name, the fact he was in care, and the identities of both his birth and foster parents start spreading over social media, as if the official attempts to shut down this information only spark a wildfire of speculation. And some of that is cruel. Late the same night William is reported missing, his birth mum gets a call from someone saying there's something written online that her son's body has been discovered. And of course, that isn't true.
The amount of things that mother would have went through.
Oh.
As a reporter covering the investigation into William's disappearance in the weeks and months and years that...
Sorry. I thought it was a longer break, but yeah, because you got to think about it. Not only did she find out her son was missing, but she had the officers there going through her house, literally looking to see if she had him.
Oh my God, how terrible would you like that feel? Like,
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, it happens over and over again, especially in Australia.
Yep.
Follow. One thing that strikes me is the sheer scale of the police operation and how hard it must be to keep track over all that information. The uncertainty about different cars continues. The foster mother remembers seeing 2 cars parked outside the house on the morning William went missing, a grey sedan and a white station wagon. A year later, the police will be unable to find those cars.
Then there's the information that for the first time tonight is being made public by police.
And will use the 9 Network's 60 Minutes programme to appeal for information.
Oh, we've got the general description of the vehicles. One's a white station wagon, another is a older style greyish coloured sedan.
That white Toyota Camry station wagon was published in the news.
This is Richard Brindle. He's a truck driver who says he was driving his B-double up in Queensland.
that car, well, that bloke was parked on the side of the road, halfway between Marianvale and Gingin in central Queensland.
Richard says the car driver was a bit weird.
And he got out and he started waving to me. And I waved and he followed me. And he followed me and he followed me. And I stopped. And I said, who are you? What's your problem? Anyway, he went around me, flopped his penis out, having a pee on the side of the road, waving at me. And I thought, this guy's a nutter.
Richard says the station wagon has New South Wales plates. He drove away, and at home that night, he saw a sketch that looked exactly like the car on 60 Minutes. He also recognised the man he saw from news reports.
There was on the news a description of the bloke on there and a sketch of the bloke and all. I said, that's the guy in that white station wagon that's up there in central Queensland. That's that car.
Richard says he called Crime Stoppers, which allows you to report information to police.
So I rang Crime Stoppers to tell them all about it. Like I said, you want to, what they could have done, there's cameras, we know all the surveillance cameras. I said, go through the cameras. I got my logbooks. They got records of my run, and you can get this car's rego, and there's a start for you.
Only Richard didn't hear back.
Yeah, twice now I've rang them.
And he was talking about a car the police had been on TV appealing for information about.
Just my frustration. I thought, there's a boy's life's gone missing here. I've got kids of my own. I thought, I'm not after reward money or anything like that. Very serious stuff. It's a boy's life.
And maybe all that shows you is how much information the police were receiving. And the car Richard saw, maybe it wasn't the white car in the police appeal. And maybe memory can be unreliable. Except there's Lois Barry.
Because I had got in touch with the Crime Stoppers.
Who says she saw a boy she swears was William with a group of other kids and 2 adults in Central Australia shortly after he went missing.
As I was walking across, one of the little boys said, what's the matter, Will? And I looked across and here's William Tyrrell.
Lois says she tried to report it at the local police station.
The policeman came out and he didn't let me get to finish, and he said, look, I'm in a meeting, don't worry about it, there's all sorts of funny things going on up here, just go home and have a good night's sleep and don't worry about it anymore.
And Lois says she called Crime Stoppers more than once, but never heard from a detective.
Then all of a sudden I noticed this little boy.
And then there's Matilda Polonetz, who was on a bus journey 2 days after William was reported missing.
And I think I just noticed him more so because he had that Spider-Man outfit. That's what I really do remember.
And saw a boy she later recognised from news reports as William.
And of course the brown hair.
And this was before you'd heard about William going missing?
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Matilda tried to report this to Crime Stoppers, but says the person on the line says she must have got it wrong.
She asked me if he had blonde hair, and of course I said no. And then she just said, no, that's not the boy. It wasn't Tyrrell.
So she asked you if the boy you saw had blonde hair, and
That's
you said
definite.
no.
That's 100%, yes. She specifically said that, yes.
Only William wasn't blonde. He had brown hair, like the boy on the bus. So if this conversation happened like Matilda remembers, Crime Stoppers got that wrong. And maybe something important wasn't passed to the detectives. Richard, Lois and Matilda, all saying they called Crime Stoppers and nothing. We asked Crime Stoppers about this. Their chief exec, Peter Price, said they can't respond to, quote, comments made by members of the public which can't be substantiated or proven in any shape or form, and these comments may end up being a matter of opinion. Which is fine, except we gave Crime Stoppers the names of the people making what he calls these comments, and I would have thought Crime Stoppers keeps records, so these comments could be substantiated or proven. Either way, We do know there are gaps in the police investigation, and no crime scene was established, so there was no forensic evidence, and some places never got searched, amid confusion over who was really running the investigation, which was also dealing with an avalanche of tips, leads, and sightings. So some got missed or only followed up on years later. And if we know now, the police have got no evidence about what happened to William, all that makes you wonder what they might have missed right from the beginning.
So this was within, I'm guessing, 2 weeks of William going missing.
This woman was close enough to what was going on to know about the local white goods repairman we mentioned at the start of the episode, who was due to come and fix the washing machine in the house where William was reported missing.
So I just thought I'd call Crime Stoppers.
She says that she read something about how if William was abducted, it was likely to be someone who had a reason to be at the property.
And so that just made me immediately think about the washing machine guy, because we knew that he'd been there.
And what did you hear back?
I didn't hear back.
Ever?
No.
And what did you think about that?
I've never called Crime Stoppers before, so I wasn't sure whether they would ring me back or whether they would just take the information and pass it on to the police.
And maybe that happened, because somehow, out of all the noise and chaos of the search and the investigation, the clairvoyance, the media reporting, the thousands of sightings, and all the other persons of interest, the police will zero in on this one suspect, who will come to dominate all their attention, blotting out other leads, meaning, again, you'll never know what you missed if you had been looking. And the police pursuit of this one suspect will ultimately lead to what a court will describe as the worst case of malicious prosecution in the state's history. But right now, 1 week after William was reported missing, as his foster parents load up their car, including the empty car seat, for the long drive home to Sydney, this washing machine repairman has no idea what is about to hit him, how he will become front page news. He'll be assaulted, forced to move, have a new neighbour tell him she doesn't want him to be outside while her children are playing, how he will be arrested, accused of child sex offences, have details of those charges shared with journalists outside the court by police. And only years later, when he has lost his business and his reputation, been separated from the children who were living with him, only then, when it's too late for all those things, will this man be found not guilty. And even today, 10 years into the police investigation into William's disappearance, there is no evidence that he or Tony Jones or Jeff Owen were on Benaroon Drive that morning. But there are people who wrongly remember only the bad headlines and ask, who was that guy? The one from the TV reports? What happened to him? Maybe let's start at the beginning. Could you introduce yourselves?
I'm Bill Spedding. Yes.
That's next time on Witness William Tyrrell. If you know anything about William's disappearance, please contact Crime Stoppers. There's a number in the show notes for this series. But if there's anything you want to tell us, you can email witness@news.com.au, or I'm on social media, and it can be completely confidential. A lot of different people have been involved in making this series. Among them, the executive producer is Nina Young. The sound design was by Tiffany Dimmack. The producers have been Emily Pidgeon, Nicholas Adams Jasbar, Phoebe Zakowski-Wallace, and Tabby Wilson.
I'm going to stop it there. So
Yep.
Next Wednesday is Bill Spenning. And I can tell you I have so much to say on that. I found one of the things. So I have covered Daniel Morecambe's case on my channel before, but it's just his family that have been fighting for this. Because anyone who knows Daniel Morecambe's family, they are very big in sex offenders. They are very big in child safety. They go around to schools still today and do their little things to help protect children. But this is something they've been fighting for. Says watch premiere. Okay, so this is the premiere, like the the Queensland premiere. We'll see what he's got to say about it first.
Our passage of Daniel's Law will be done in this calendar year. So to recap, that was a commitment we made before the election, and I made a commitment to Bruce and Denise that there would be changes and there would be the creation of a child sex offender register in honour of their brave little boy. And I remain steadfast in my view that if somebody breaches their conditions, they lose the right to anonymity, and there should be a website that shows that. If there is a serious hardcore pedophile living in an area, parents deserve to know that. And if somebody comes into the lives of a family, parents have the right to be able to check the history of that person.
So that's what I was talking about. So it's going to be called Daniel's Law, and it's going to make this public list of the sex offenders in an area, and it's going to be all over Australia. But I have put the article in our Facebook page, so if anyone wants to go and read it, and I did send it to you, Macjay.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, if anyone wants to go read it, it is worth a read. It is I'm excited for it. I think it's really good for Australia. We need it, especially in Queensland, because I've noticed a lot get dumped here.
Questions.
Is this going to happen, and is it nationwide or statewide? It's going to be all over Australia, and they're promising that it will be up and running by the end of this year. So it's huge. And if Jimmy, as I said, I know it's through Daniel Morecambe's thing. I will keep an eye on it. I have put the article in our Facebook page, and I will keep my eye on. As soon as I see any more about it, I will make sure I post it too, because it's very exciting.
Yes.
Finally, we get the bad guys. Anyway, so that's it for tonight. Friday night. Friday, I have a day off.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow, and I've got Friday off. So Friday night, we've got our next one with Amy. Miss Sharon, please make sure you go and watch the last one, because you're going to want to before the next one. Yes, Kexby, we started late, but yeah, we finish now. But go and watch it. It's only an hour. Rewind. It's worth the watch. Bill spending next week for William. I have so much to share with him, and I make sure I'll get this phone charged so that I can get back into that page for next week. Okay. I have a bookmark. Yeah, it is worth it, because you get to hear from her girls and her mum. What was really good.
Yes, it was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was. Okay, my lovely people, I'm going to love you all and go to bed and get some sleep, because I'm tired. And I will see you all on Friday.
See you guys.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Aussie true crime on the rise. Investigate the scene, uncover the lies. From Melbourne to Sydney, all the way to Perth. No case too tough, we'll dig into the dirt. We'll crack the code, find the truth, bring justice to the table. No excuse, Australian legends in the game, bringing light to darkness, no shame. Just got a super chat, let's celebrate. Raise a glass for all the cases we've solved in the past. With eyes wide open, we'll never rest. Aussie true crime, we're the best. From cold cases to missing persons, we'll leave no stone unturned. Every virgin detectives in our hearts will never give up. But justice and truth will always hear us. Ooh, thank you so much. Let's celebrate, raise a glass for all the cases we solved in the past. With eyes wide open, we'll never rest. Aussie true crime, we're the best. Thank you so much. Let's celebrate, raise a glass for all the cases we've solved in the past. With eyes wide open, we'll never rest. Aussie true crime, we're the best. For all the cases we've solved in the past. With eyes wide open, we'll never rest. Aussie true crime, we're the best. Let's celebrate, raise a glass for all the cases we've solved in the past. With eyes wide open, we'll never rest. Aussie true crime, we're the best. Thank you so much.